First, he was born like in January the 22nd of 1906 in Peaster, Texas, right?
Yeah,
so,
Texas, yeah.
Yeah, like he's a Texan. So, like if you met Texans, you know where this is going, right?
Welcome back to Pint Cellar, everyone. I'm Jarvis, and I'm joined with Hubrecht. How you doing, sir?
Know, O Prince, that between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the sons of Arias, there was an age undreamed of. When shining kingdoms lay spread across the world like blue mantles beneath the stars. Numidia, Ophir, Brythunia, Hyperborea, Zamora with its dark-haired women and towers of spider-haunted mystery, Singara with its chivalry, Koth that bordered on the pastoral lands of Shem, Stygia with its shadow-guarded tombs, Hyrcania whose riders wore steel and silk and gold. But the proudest kingdom of the world was Aquilonia, reigning supreme in the dreaming west. Hither came Conan, the Cimmerian, black-haired, sullen-eyed, sword in hand, a thief, a reaver, a slayer, with gigantic melancholies and gigantic mirth, to thread the jeweled thrones of the earth under his sandaled feet. The Numidian Chronicles. I'm doing very well, sir. Thank you for asking.
Bro, when there's a prologue like this, people are expecting a British man to read it, not a Mexican. What are you doing? You lost the plot. What are you doing, bro? You ruined the script.
I wanted to be dramatic.
You broke the immersion, bro.
I want to do it again?
No. Yeah, I guess that sets the scene. But how you doing, man? I guess you're very excited for this episode.
I think we had a long time coming, if I don't recall it. Like even before, like we did that Lovecraft episode, we talked about Robert E. Howard, because I did mention him to you, and you weren't really that familiar with him, I remember.
Well, I knew of him, like I know about Conan from like the Schwarzenegger film, which I think is still very good. And
it is very good. Like I'm not gonna debate that it isn't, right?
And also, I kind of like respected Robert like before, like because I was watching the extra creds video where it was talking about Howard and Lovecraft being like influential in Pulp Fiction. And
when extra credits,
when they were good, when they were good before they did some cringe, and you know what, they're still kind of good today because they're doing now history videos. But let me just say, let's ignoring extra credits stuff aside, like baggage from bad videos they might have done. I'm just saying, I respected a writer like Robert E. Howard, and we'll definitely talk more about him. So actually getting to read his books and learn more about him, it's like I did miss out on this guy when I was getting into Lovecraft,
Yeah. I think that it's funny because like it's a very strange phenomenon, because I think that at least currently in the current era, or at least the last decade or so, like the most notable one has been Lovecraft, because like Lovecraft has had this kind of like revival of notoriety, because like for most of the 20th century, after he died, he was like this very obscure figure whose work was kept alive only by like this very distinct circle of colleagues and fans, right? And like only later, by the end of the 20th century, like when works start that were influenced by him, by other authors, or movie writers or comic book writers as well, started to come out and say, oh, this is based on Lovecraft, this is very Lovecraftian. Like Lovecraft started to gain this notoriety again and become like a household name that he wasn't in life. And something similar happened to Robert E. Howard, although I would say that Robert E. Howard became notable after his death, before Lovecraft gained its notoriety, or at least the current notoriety that he has. I would say, like, I could still be wrong though, right? Like, I'm not a biographer of either man, right? But because, like, after Howard died, I do believe he had like more fans that Lovecraft had, and so like there was this constant the constant stream of pastiches of Conan specifically, meaning like Conan stories that were written by other authors that were not Howard, right?
Right. I think something like that happened with Sherlock Holmes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, essentially, Howard. Although I would say that Lovecraft is more notable now, but I would say that it's the scale is swinging back to back to notoriety for Howard and for Robert E. Howard. They're both named Howard.
Though Howard is his last name, for Lovecraft, his first name's Howard.
Yeah, his first name's Howard. But Robert, simply because of the fact that Robert's writing is so exciting. It's like so full of energy, and I think that people right now are kind of tired of the dreary nihilistic horror and like kind of like want to see heroics again.
I just think, because experiencing Howard's writing compared to Lovecraft, is that Lovecraft loves his adjectives and nouns. That's very purple, I would say, and it's clear like he really rehearsed like how the flow of the language would go, but it kind of gets to a point where it's like, dude, you could have put simpler words to describe this setting.
Yeah.
There could be a scene. Listen, but there could be a scene where he picks up like a can of beans and be like, "This cylinder of cosmic sludge and brown horrors of this heinous vegetables of the unknown
reverberate through space-time in a conflagration of." I know what you mean.
In an abominable stew of filth and sludge. And I'm like, so do you want to pay for that now, sir?
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
And he finds out the guy is like Irish, and it's like, the horrors of the abominable island off the coast of the ill white man. It's like, okay.
Then a black guy comes in, and they're like, "Oh, a cultist."
It's like, Howard, I told you can't use these words when at the store.
I know what you mean. Like, it's strange because I like purple prose. Like, I do like these more archaic words in text normally, because I think they add a lot of character and gravitas to a text. Also, like if the story is happening in an ancient time, like the Middle Ages, or a time before an antediluvian lost era of Earth, like the Conan stories, right? I do think that it's kind of like using some archaic language does help to give some character to the fact that people that we're reading about are not modern people. So they do not talk like modern people. They do not see the things the way modern people do. And I think that's important. Like, I think even Tolkien himself used a lot of archaic terminology and prose to center the mood of Middle Earth. Because,
well, I mean, but it's just that when it comes to like, describing things, this is how my point was that Howard kind of went too far at certain points.
Yeah, it becomes tiring. Like, one of the greatest criticisms of Lovecraft is the fact that a lot of people find him difficult to read, and not only because of his racism.
Yes, it goes beyond that, where it's like, but get to the point.
Yeah.
But
although I suppose that complicated language does fit in the whole thing of describing the undescribable, right? But yeah, we're here to talk about Robert E. Howard, not his buddy Howard Philip Lovecraft. We're talking about the jock, not the nerd.
Yeah, and on the whole thing, calling Robert a jock, right? I just want to say this because this was something noted within the Conan omnibus that I have. When I was listening to it. There are letters between short stories, and even like this prologue piece or bit that was talking about Howard. Can we say Robert as first name?
Yeah, we just remember Robbie, Bobby.
Yeah,
okay, Robert.
Well, then again, when we say Howard, we're using his last name. Lovecraft, that is his last name. We'll just say go of Howard. So, what I find about Howard is that people think that Conan might have been a self-insert as a power fantasy, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a weak guy, I'm timid, but I'm going to write this really confident strongman figure.
Yeah,
I think that's a stereotype, but then again, it's like, well, Robert was a pretty athletic guy for within the Rhine circle. Yeah, it's like an amateur boxer and stuff.
Yeah, like it's very funny because Howard seems like, from we know of his life, Howard seems like a walking contradiction in some of the characteristics he had in life. First, he was born like in January the 22nd of 1906 in Peaster, Texas, right?
Yeah, so, Texas, yeah.
Yeah, like he's a Texan, so like if you met Texans, you know where this is going, right? So
yes, I like my gun, and I like the state of Texas, yeah. I sound like a Georgian. Never mind. We're Canadians and Mexican talking about Texas. Here we are.
Hey, like Texans are traitors. Remember that. Texans
exactly.
Are
I think Texas should go back to Mexico. Russia wants Alaska. Mexico should have Texas.
Yeah, like like if we're being objective, no, Texas, you shouldn't go back to Mexico. You stay where you are. So basically, apparently, Robert was a very sickly child. Like he was small and sickly, and he was kind of an introvert, right? Like most of his life, he was kind of like quiet and introverted. But like when he grew up a little bit more, like went into his teens, like he remained kind of an introverted that liked books and old stories and poetry and the like. But he also liked sports. He liked, he loved, he could hold his liquor quite a lot. He was, he loved boxing and bodybuilding. So he was kind of like this, the stereotype of this quiet guy that seems like a pushover. But when you walk up to him and try to push him down, then you realize that he's taller than you, and he's kind of like built like a truck, basically.
It's like, don't take a guy's quietness as weakness.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Howard apparently nearly pursued a career in pro boxing, and apparently he was quite good at it as well.
Yeah, so it's like it's not like the character Conan existed for a guy who never had strength. It's like this was a strong man who wrote about a strong man. If that,
like he was not a puny insult that like, oh, I'm gonna write myself like this muscle bound badass that gets all the hot babes. Like, no, Howard actually was muscly and strong. So he had kind of the right. He wanted to write about a strong guy. He was on his. He could do it, right?
It takes a strong man to write about a strong man.
Yeah. Like we're talking Conan, but we need to point out that Howard, that Conan is his most famous character, but he's not his only character.
Exactly. There's Call of the Conqueror, Solomon Kane, and
called El Borak as well, and Red Sonja. Although Red Sonja,
I wanted to ask about that because. There's this one lady I follow on Twitter. She does Bible art, but also at the same time, she does art on Red Sonja. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is she a character from him, Red Sonja? It's like, who is she?
Yes and no. Basically, Red Sonja is a character about this girl in the 16th century Europe. Right? It's I haven't read the short story, but it's about this fighting girl in the 16th century Europe, right? So that's the character Robert made. That's the Red Sonja.
Is he set in the is he set in the Hyborian Age, or is this no?
It's 60th century Europe.
Okay.
So later, I don't know the details about this, but later down the line, the concept and the name of Red Sonja, it's taken by I think the comic book authors that are writing the Conan comics, basically, set in the Hyborian Age, which apparently Conan comics are really good. And basically they do what's basically a female version of Conan.
Right.
And so they create this very famous and iconic image of the Red Sonja that we all know, which is this,
bikini.
this knockout of a redhead in a chainmail bikini, that fights with a sword, right?
It's like, this is sword and sorcery, and Robert E. Howard needed money so his stories could be featured on the magazine. It's like, don't blame the author for wanting to get that extra paycheck, guys.
Also, come on, the guy is a red-hearted man that that likes sports and alcohol. You think that Howard did not write hot women in his stories simply because hot women are hot?
The male gaze is still sinful, bro. But I'm just saying, to people who wave the finger of Robert doing the whole bikini armor stuff and the whole damsel in distress stuff that some of the Conan stories are guilty of, let me just say, and people might not know this, let me just say, whoa, bro, listen, bro. Weird Tales had this saying in which, if you could write a scene that can be featured on the magazine, then you'll be given the extra paycheck. And yeah, Robert took that chance to get the extra paycheck. So it's like, sue him. Sue him.
Fair
He's
enough.
dead. Doesn't matter.
Enough. However, first of all, there's nothing wrong with the damsel in distress trope. Like, people are just stupid. There's nothing wrong with it. Hell, in fact, have you seen the meme of, Conan running with this bombshell on his shoulder, and the graphic meme of this is a male fantasy, and the other side of the graphic meme is like, this is a female fantasy as well.
No, I haven't seen that.
No, hold on, let me look for it just so you know. Hold on.
I'm just saying, there's one of his short stories, the damsel was such a stereotype that it was borderline comedic. Like, of how the author was presenting her, she was like, "Oh, Conan, what should we do?" And I was like, this is the stereotype people might think of Conan, okay?
Fair enough. But,
the creeping shadow, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's like, wait, hold on. Where is I cannot find it. I see it all the time on Twitter.
Doesn't matter. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'll look for it later. But basically, funnily enough, I think Robert E. Howard was a feminist at his time.
At the time. Back
when feminist wasn't a synonym for sex offender.
Ooh. And before it became a con when it comes to YouTubers. The con industry of anti-feminist videos.
Yeah. Which as far as Robert is concerned, writing hot women is the most empowering thing he could ever do. But okay, let's talk about the man, his stories, and his writing process more directly, if you want. So Robert E. Howard was born in Texas, in Peaster, Texas, but spent most of his life in Cross Plains, Texas, where I think his house still is to this day, and it's functions as a museum.
Really?
Although it's a small-time museum, I think you have to make an appointment so the owner can go and lock the place for you. He wanted to become a writer ever since he was a kid, from around the age of 9. And he always loved the stories of adventures. He liked history. He liked poetry. He liked old legends. And it's funny because Robert E. Howard has something in common with another great writer of his time-ish, because, he became notable a couple of decades later, but he was contemporaries with another great author and I'm not talking about Lovecraft.
Okay.
One Englishman known as John Rule, J.R.R. Tolkien, basically.
So,
What
well,
did he have in common?
He didn't know Tolkien, though.
No, he didn't know Tolkien, but he was contemporaries with him. And
what does that mean?
What they had in common, contemporaries means that they both lived, their lives happened at the same time.
Really? I didn't consider that.
Yeah. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard were alive at the same time as C.S. Lewis, as J.R.R. Tolkien. Yeah.
That is insane. It's like, imagine.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah.
I'm just saying, imagine if Tolkien had like a Weird Tales magazine.
Yeah. I know that Tolkien read Dune, but it is unknown if Tolkien. Yeah, it is unknown if Tolkien ever read anything about Robert E. Howard. Because we need to remember, as I said, like at the time after Robert E. Howard died, much like most pulp authors, most of his work was spread out between the issues of these magazines, right? They were not collected in volumes,
right?
So they weren't that accessible outside the US, I would think.
Yeah, but imagine an alternate timeline. It's like you drop off a Weird Tales magazine to Tolkien, and he's like, "Why is there a half-naked woman on this cover?"
Yeah. Although, to be fair, like Robert E. Howard loved mythology and old heroic legends, and so did Tolkien. So I don't know, like, even though Robert E. Howard's writing is more raw than Tolkien's, and Tolkien is more poetic, I would say. So, yeah. So Robert E. Howard, he grew up in a time where the Old West was still hanging on to life. Apparently he loved reading and learning, but he found that school was confining, restrictive, and overbearing, and he hated anyone having authority over him. So he hated teachers, apparently.
Not to like us going over the whole biography of Robert E. Howard, but
just want to get some of the points of why he wrote what he wrote, right?
Yeah. Because because I remember what you were saying about how he lived in what was like the rural I can't say the word old ways of Texas before and what is it, an oil company went over to his town to extract oil, and how kind of like robbed of that ancient life away, where it's like
basically Robert E. Howard grew up when he was growing up, it was still the Wild West. He has firsthand tales of having experienced and being witness to gunfights, lynchings, blood feuds, and Indian raids on developed district, on an Indian raid. So imagine that, like, you're this little boy on the turn of the century where, cars are becoming commonplace, oil is beginning to be used, industrialization slowly taking over the country and the rest of the world, but you on your little corner of Texas are still cowboys versus Indians, basically.
Yeah, it's like when we say this was old Texas, this was old Texas, and that sudden transformation into like the modern oil industry was like, is there probably to say it took something from that old way?
Yeah, this technology and modern civilization coming and developing the land, and polluting the environment, and hardworking tough men becoming ruled over by pencil pushing bureaucrats. That's something that Howard is quoted to have hated. He considered it like a violation. Hell, Howard actually has a quote on a letter to Weird Tales editor Farnsworth Wright, saying, "I'll say one thing about an oil boom. It will teach a kid that life's a pretty rotten thing as quick as anything I can think of."
And like, I do believe you have to, catch up with like how times are changing when it comes to like technology, because the world may go forward, and if you refuse to come forward with it, then you will be, stuck. But at the same time, it's like, you understand, with when such an oil boom was happening and what it took from like from where he was growing up, it is a sort of tragedy in a way where it's like, yeah, you made life sort of easier, but at the same time you took away the beauty of life.
Yeah. This is something that this is kind of like, you can see it in his constant in the Conan stories, hell, in all of his stories basically. Like, although the most obvious example is Conan, he has this dichotomy of this noble barbarism against decadent civilization.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
Because
so,
that is, yeah, sorry, bro, but that is like a recurring theme, especially within Conan, that I noticed is that Conan there's a reason why he became king. He, like, through his raw strength, he was able to create a kingdom of his own. And when other kings tried to, fight him, he made notice that these are pudgy men who are descendants of men who made kingdoms of their own. They're just like people who leached off their inheritance. So it's like Conan had more right to be a king than they did. Besides,
it's kind of like the meme of the weak men create hard times, like, because like you have like it implies that every notable man, like according at least to Robert E. Howard, every great man, men that became kings, founded kingdoms, conquered empires, the type of man that pass into legend, basically. We're all barbarians in one way or another, right? While the heirs of these people that have grown up in the in the affluence of their ancestors' hard work have become weak and decadent because of it, right? So like, that strength is lost to them. And here's the thing, like, this hatred for kind of like the encroachment, this disdain about the encroachment of the modern industrialized world upon the natural and pure olden ways is something that he has in common with Tolkien.
Yeah,
Tolkien also,
I was thinking that,
very critical about that. He's also like, oh, this whole industrialization and this modernity shit is going to lead us to ruin, basically. Like,
which is kind of is.
It kind of did. World War One. So yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, he has something in common with Tolkien over there. Like this whole like return to monkey. Well, not return to monkey, but like return to feudalism kind of sort of thing that they have going on.
Yeah, but at least with someone like Conan, it's like, I remember in this one short story, I think it's called The Black Colossus. There's a scene where
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, there's this scene where he's given command of a army from a princess, and he decides to stop the army at this, near river. I'm going to call it a river, to, rest the horses and for them to be supplied. But the generals were like, no, we want to go into the desert now and be ready for the battle the next day. And he goes, so be it. He just lets them go. But his right-hand man comes to him and be like, but Conan, with them in the desert, they're going to, lose their water and their horses will be starved. And he's like, they won't ever listen to me because they think I'm just a brute from the wildlands. So just let them and make their own mistakes. So it's like, it kind of shows that Conan, he's very strong and he's called a barbarian for a reason, but he's not but he's not stupid. So it's
that's kind of the thing. I think I say that a lot of people that do not know Conan, like, basically, funnily enough, fall into the stereotype that people would think about Conan immediately when they see anything related to him. Like, oh, this is just
act like the characters.
About a dumb brute, about a dumb brute. Well, in reality, Conan is not only very strong, he's very agile, he's very smart, he speaks several languages, he's very good at strategy, and he's kind of like, and he can beat you with wits as well as with sword, like, so it's very funny because that Robert E. Howard immediately thought, they're going to think my barbarian character is going to be some dumb monkey, right? So, and he wrote that into the stories themselves.
Like, And in the same story, it doesn't help that when the generals were first introduced to him, he has one foot on a table and eating off of meat with a giant bone on it.
Okay,
and he was
yeah,
just
like he's still a barbarian, right?
Yeah,
he's still a barbarian.
He doesn't have table manners. It probably didn't help the scene, but it's like, I don't know. I did find it to be a funny story, or parts where it's like funny story, but it does help set the scene for like who the character Conan is. And it wasn't even the first sword story from the omnibus. It was actually Phoenix on the Sword.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites actually. I like that one a lot.
You know, for some reason, I found that story a bit on the confusing side, maybe because I was listening to an audiobook and maybe I missed a bit here and there. But to those who don't know, this is about a middle-aged Conan, and this is when he had his own kingdom. Maybe you can help me out. There's a scene with this wizard. You know, he's like a slave to another, and he's like cursed.
Yeah.
Do we meet this guy through multiple short stories, or is this just one time? Because I feel like
I don't remember. Like I've read Conan, but I haven't read all short stories of Conan. His name was, hold on, let me remember. Thought Amon, that's his name.
Right. I was wondering if we come across him later on in a bunch of stories, because I feel like I hear his name before.
He does show up in more stories, but this is the first story that he shows up in, and it's kind of like the most most notable one, because it's kind of like the first Conan story ever.
Right. So it's like other Conan stories are set before Phoenix on the Sword, but this one is more like, this is Conan. I don't want to say at the end of his life, but this is him when he has accomplished
the height of his career. Like, like he achieved his objective of becoming a king.
Yeah, and which I found very interesting for a story that's, the first of the Conan stories. And there's a scene about the wizard, right? I'm not going to bother saying his name, but sorry, it's just how I am. There's a scene in which he's like a slave and he's cursing, "Oh, if I only had my ring, I could get my vengeance." And another servant's like, "Oh, you mean this ring?" And he digs up his pile and gives it to him.
That is very funny. That is very funny. I'll admit that it seems like, oh, what a plot convenience. But I think, you know what? I think that's intentional. Like when I first read Phoenix on the Sword, like, okay, so Phoenix on the Sword, the plot of the story is like Conan is, at the height of his power. He's a king, but, there's discontent because a lot of the nobility of Aquilonia, the kingdom he conquered, is, not happy about this foreign usurper seeing the throne, right? Because his claim is illegitimate. He doesn't have any legitimate claim to the throne other than, conquering by arms. So there's a coup d'etat being planned by a man named Ascalante. And a lot of the nobles and courtiers of Conan's court are planning to kill him and take over as put one of their own as king. And Thotamon the sorcerer is now enslaved to this man Ascalante. So basically, the story follows the attempt of assassinating Conan while he's sleeping. While Conan, wakes up just before the entire battalion of people, the conspirators, enters his room where he is by himself. And, he's on the midst of putting on his armor when he's surrounded and he's like, he doesn't have even his full armor on. And he's just says f it. So he grabs an axe from the wall, and he's like, come on, dogs, and fighting all the guys by himself. While this whole thing with the sorcerer, one of the other conspirators is lent the sorcerer as an aid by Ascalante, and Thotamon the sorcerer is kind of offers the other conspirator that he could make him even more powerful, and even amongst his other conspirators, if only he helps him, and that it will all be so easier. He has his magic ring, right? And he's gonna and it's funny because in that scene that you're talking about, Thotamon basically spells his whole backstory to this guy he just met, basically, this guy who he's working for on the behalf of his master because he's a slave. And the guy doesn't listen to any of the backstory. Like the man goes on this whole tirade of I was a great sorcerer once before my enemy, like yada yada yada. And like the guy is kind of like, huh? What? Did you say something? I didn't hear any of that. If I only had my ring. Oh, you mean this ring? Oh yeah, I got that from a caravan. Like I think that's intentional because Solomon goes on, tells his whole life story, and the guy like is not even listening to him and is like kind of like, what? Did you say something? Like, and Solomon is just, starts seething over the fact that, this fat fool is not taking him seriously.
And it's just funny that this whole time, the one thing that he needed to gain back his powers, like, been there the whole time. It is humorous. It's okay to have humor in your stories, guys, and I think that was good humor.
Yeah, like it was funny because it is a plot convenience, yes, but at the same time, it is a short story, and it's the first one he ever wrote for the character, at least. So, like, I think we can, we can forgive a bit of plot convenience, especially when it's so funny,
Also, I'm confused about this part. So there's a scene when Conan is dreaming. We were talking about this, and another wizard from an ancient time blesses him with a insignia of a phoenix on his blade. You remember that scene?
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can go ahead because, for the audience, I think this is the most detail we're going about in a short story because it is the first story. But yeah, go ahead, man. Tell me about that whole thing.
Yeah. So this wizard, it's kind of like he's kind of like a wizard prophet of a god in the Hyborian Age, like kind of like the most worshipped god of the Hyborian Age, which I think the god's name is Mithras, and the sage's name. Oh, sorry, what?
Not Crumb?
No, Crumb is like the chief god of Conan's people, but the sage that gives the phoenix from the sword is the sage of Mithras, which I think his name is Epimetheus, I think.
Okay.
It's not Epimetheus, it's Epimetheus, like he takes the name Epimetheus and he changes the name a little to sound more original.
Yeah.
Like actually in the Phoenix of the Sword, Conan mentions that, the gods of the Cimmerians, because that's the name of Conan's people, the Cimmerians, because they come from Cimmeria. They are kind of like, very, not evil gods, but kind of like whole gods, because they are kind of like, I'm not gonna, if you pray for me to help, I'm gonna send you a curse because you shouldn't be such a weakling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's like sounds like real pagan gods.
Yeah, basically.
But go on, man, about the whole dream thing.
Yeah. So in the dream, the sage warns him that a great evil is coming his way, and that he basically is gonna need something to fight it, and he like brands the sword with the phoenix symbol, which is in the Hyborian Age is the symbol for the god Mithras. And that's when Conan wakes up and he gets pretty much the assassination attempt on him starts, right? So, but what happens next is that when Solomon, all the way out from the palace, in the estate of this one other conspirator, gathers his ring, he basically conjures a horror from the outer dark to kill Ascalante and his other conspirators, and he summons it into the palace in the midst of the fight between Conan and all the conspirators that are trying to kill him. And so this is where we see Lovecraft's influence on Robert E. Howard, because there's these moments in the Conan stories in which Robert E. Howard out Lovecraft. I don't know if you get what I mean, because it's undescribable horror from the outer dark, which seeing it causes insanity. Like
maybe think of a monkey. of how it described it. I think it resembled a monkey.
It described it as ape-like. Yeah, like ape-like in shape. But it's funny because the reason Conan doesn't go mad is because Conan is kind of like, not because he's dumb, but because Conan is kind of like, I don't understand what that thing is, and I'm not even going to try. I'm just gonna hit it with I'm just gonna kill it with my sword. I'm not even gonna try to fathom the implications of its existence like Lovecraft protagonists do, right? Because
it's like, how
what does this mean?
Yeah, Conan, it's like he's not dumb, but it's like, well, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to go kill it.
Yeah, he doesn't, but I don't need to think that much, like the thing's trying to kill me, I'm gonna kill it back.
Yeah. But I will say this one thing. I think it was odd for me that it was like a shadow monkey thing, because the sorcerer was kind of like the worshiper of Seth, the snake god of the world.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be a serpent.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot more serpent monsters and enemies in the rest of the stories. Don't worry. I think you may have noticed.
Yeah. But I think of how the rest of it goes. He does slay the creature, and the conspirators were killed as well. And he kind of like reassured himself as king of why he's king of Aquilonia.
Aquilonia.
Thank you. It's called this, you Taurus. I'm like, yeah, well, bite me. But for something that's like Conan's first short story, and if I actually remember right, it was actually meant to be a story for Cole.
It was a story for Cole. Originally, it was going to be for Cole, but then Robert, decided to create Conan, and they like, nah, Cole can stay over here. Like, I'm doing this other guy.
And I think this is interesting too for people who don't know, is that Call the Conqueror was kind of pre-Conan in the sense that it's the kind of same story about a strong man who goes on adventures. But I think the difference, to really paint a picture between the difference between Call and Conan, is that Call is a king who goes on adventures, whereas Conan is a man who eventually becomes king, if that's appropriate to say.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that at one point, Cole is made a slave. There's a story. In fact, one of the main criticisms of the Schwarzenegger Conan movie is that when you take the lore of what happens to the story, what the story Conan goes through in that story, that's not the story of Conan. Oh. That's the story of Cole when you think about it.
Yeah, I think I heard something like that where the Conan film with Schwarzenegger, it's kind of like it actually mixes some stuff about Call the Conqueror.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, which I don't think it's necessarily wrong or it was a bad thing. It's like they're telling it's a good movie overall, but I think it'd be more appropriate to call it Call the Conqueror instead of calling it Conan.
Yeah, Conan.
But then again, I think more people know about Conan than they do Call.
Yeah, pretty much. I would say, and here's the thing, like something we need to understand about Conan as a character. Mm-hmm. Conan is a hero, but Conan is a hero in the same way Hercules and Achilles are heroes. It's not because he's always morally righteous. It's more because he achieves great deeds, great, great grandiose feats. Because if you read Greek mythology, like a lot of the heroes in Greek mythology, they're kind of scumbags, a lot of the time.
Guys, I'm just saying, when it comes to heroes like this, that doesn't, just because they do accomplish great things, it doesn't mean they're altar boys.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny because that's the pagan view of heroism. This heroism, it's not so much about being a morally righteous person and helping people. It's seen today. Like it's about achieving great things that will pass on to legend, whether those things are morally reprehensible or not is by our standards at least, it's another thing entirely, because for example, heroes in Greek mythology kill, steal, and murder and grape all the time.
Good
you know
boy.
What I mean?
You censored yourself. Good boy. hey, I have to bleep that. But
because I don't know if you have already read the Frost Giant's Daughter.
Oh no, I haven't, but I've been told it's really good. You can
it's
tell
really
me what
good,
happens.
but it is a story like it's a very if Robert E. Howard wrote that today, he will be cancelled.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say that he would be cancelled because Conan tries to do well, I don't want to spoil you. You just have to read it for yourself. But let's just say that Conan is not no altar boy. Let's just say that. Right?
Okay. I won't assume things because you know what they say about assuming. It's gotta experience it yourself, I guess. But you know the whole thing about like what makes a hero, and it's like, do their actions outweigh their like how they are as people? Well, it's like, well, I believe today, in the Christian, pursuit, where it's like, yes, your what you accomplish should also reflect how you are morally as a person.
That comes around. Sorry for interrupting you, but like that's in the Middle Ages with the rise of when Christianity becomes the mainstream. Basically, the heroic tales will start reflecting that. So like you still have these heroes in mighty battles that can slay 1,000 men, right? But now the heroes are open in a way. They're kind of open to criticism, and their personal moral failures reflect their failures of their quest, or maybe they achieve their goals, but since the goal needed a lot of moral transgressions to achieve them, maybe that goal is not that much worth it in the end. Like this happens like in the chivalric romances a lot. Like you have this very virtuous characters who then make a huge mistake and all that virtue goes out the window. Like one of the best examples of this is Sir Lancelot, the best of the Knight of the Round Table, but he commits adultery with Queen Guinevere, betraying his king and his best friend King Arthur. So now the personal morality of the hero is more important.
Exactly. And you know what, this is reflective plenty of times in the Bible too. Especially when it comes
Book of Judges. Of Judges, everyone's in the Book of Judges.
Or David, King David. It's he killed Goliath and he would help the kingdom, but at the same time too he would still kill someone over a wife and all that.
He will take a lot of wives, which it's not permissible in Mosaic law.
But the thing is, too, if I'm correct, David does go through repentance and he asks for forgiveness for what he does.
Yeah.
But
Solomon, on the other hand,
But the point is that unintentionally, people will say that they're atheists and they don't have that mindset, but they kind of do when it comes to morality of fictional characters like Conan, where it's like, well, he's it doesn't matter what he does, and it's like, well, that's a bit of the Christian mindset influenced in your mind though too.
Like Conan can be very heroic, he can be altruistic and chivalrous too, but he also can be a scumbag and be unapologetic about it because barbarian, right?
Yeah. What do you think barbarian means, guys? It's it's not there's a lot to be a barbarian than just exercising, wearing clothes. It's like there's a reason why.
It's sorry for interrupting you again, but it's very funny because I do believe that even though Robert E. Howard was on the side of barbarism and when he wrote the stories, he was glorifying the hard, tough, rugged man. At the same time, he wasn't entirely without his criticisms of it, because like I said, that story, Frost Giant's Daughter, there's no when you read it, you have to read it the way you read a story in Greek mythology about Zeus felt like sleeping with someone and he didn't care whether who if they wanted or not. You're not gonna throw the book in the trash just because of that, right? But you're not supposed to think, oh yeah, that's, he's endorsing that, that's what he's endorsing.
When a character writes a character doing something evil, it doesn't mean the writer believes it.
Yeah. And to be fair, in that story, without spoiling anything, there's supernatural shit involved. So, there's that other layer of that. So,
okay.
Yeah, okay. But also, speaking about moral righteousness, you know what Conan character you should really, really read about?
Who?
Solomon Kane.
But before we even get to we can talk about Solomon Kane because I read a short story of him because I think we've said our piece on Conan and everything else, but Solomon Kane, I think his short story was okay. I just read one before wanting to read actual Conan stuff from the omnibus.
Which one was it? Do you remember that? Which one it was?
Yeah. Red Shadows.
Oh, I like that one a lot as well. I really like the. Okay. So
voice cracked there on the recording, but anyways,
sorry. So
you got real excited there. Can I say something about Solomon Kane?
Okay, so Solomon Kane.
Let me say something about Solomon Kane, bro.
I thought you were asking me. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
When you were describing him as the Puritan, it's like it actually does fit a stereotype where I think Solomon Kane probably doesn't celebrate Christmas because he probably sees it as too Catholic. As you see, celebrating Christmas will be punishable by 2 shillings. That kind of Puritan?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Probably. Although, to be fair, Puritans in Europe and Puritans in America, it is entirely possible they had, different practices. But it's so funny because Solomon Kane is probably the only Puritan that I like because Puritans are... they're kind of like what, they're like what Reddit atheists think when they think Christians, like, they don't enjoy anything, you cannot have party because,
they got kicked out of England because English people were finding them annoying and they end up living in America.
Yeah.
It's like, you say celebrating Easter is punishable by slapping, whipping across the back. You must never celebrate Easter. You must never even drink alcohol. It is an abomination to the Lord. And it's like, Jesus turned water into wine, right? And it's like...
No, it was grape juice.
Oh, you must never understand. You must never even smile, for laughing is the language of the devil. See? Does that sound like Solomon Kane?
Dancing is to papist and pagan. Funnily enough, no. Solomon Kane doesn't. He's a Puritan, but I think he's just a Puritan in aesthetics because other than that, he never really expresses, any specifically Puritan beliefs about Christianity, right? Like,
I guess I was just doing a joke. Where from his one video, he does like jokes on Puritans. It's like,
I know what you mean. Like because Puritans are kind of hard to like, but because heresy, first and all.
First off, I am seeing this library, and I do not see every single copy being the Bible. This is an abomination, and I see kids reading Percy Jackson. See, and Harry Potter is the language of the devil.
To be fair, like considering what happened to what other things that happened to J.K. Rowling, maybe Harry Potter is truly the language of the devil.
But you see, Percy Jackson is about a half demon now. And does he not rely on the Lord Jesus? But he relies only on demons of Olympus.
Yeah.
That's my impression on Solomon.
I know what you mean. But like Solomon Kane in a practical sense doesn't... I don't remember him expressing any Christian beliefs that are specific only to Puritans, other than the attire and the dour demeanor, right? But what I like about Solomon Kane is that Solomon Kane, having discovered Solomon Kane in an era of everything is morally gray and everything's morally, ambiguous and there's no good or evil. And when Solomon Kane's introduction was beautiful to me. Like Solomon Kane's first story, Red Shadows, is about him literally walking down in a countryside somewhere in the Franco-Belgian border, coming across a bunch of massacred villagers, by bandits, and seeing that there's this girl, which that has been brutalized. Probably, they probably also did,
bad things,
untoward, grape to her.
Good boy, tracking yourself.
If you keep saying good boy to me, I'm going to start cursing.
Oh, it's a slur.
Okay.
It's me saying boy, okay. Dad. Okay, let's continue.
So, Solomon Kane literally comforts the girl as she's dying and asks her what happened. And, she tells him that, they were waylaid by bandits, and these bandits did all these things to her family and to her, and she dies in his arms. Solomon Kane never learns her name. She's a stranger to him. And, but that the moment she dies, he lays her down gently. And, he, like the text says, he made no wild, reckless vow. And he just says, men shall die for this. That's Solomon Kane in a nutshell, right? Mm-hmm. Like, evil must be punished. There has been an evil act committed, and that evil must be punished just because it's the right thing to do. I'm here as a witness, so I'm the one who's going to do it. And the rest of the story, Solomon hunts down the bandits all the way through Europe, all the way through Africa for several years, just to punish them, just to make sure they don't get away with it. And like, that's the most, that's one of the most badass things I've ever read.
It's most tenacious thing too. Right? Sorry, I was going to say it's most tenacious thing too about a character where it's like, this wasn't done in a few months or like a year. He spent years tracking these people down, and he doesn't even know the girl, or probably just not even related to the village in any way. It's
nothing to him. It's a random girl. It's not his sister. It's not his wife. It's not his daughter. She's a girl that
it's not the stereotypical vengeance story. He doesn't go, I will get my vengeance. It's I will punish the evils done in this town.
Yeah, actually, Robert calls Solomon Kane several times as a redresser of wrongs, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Kratos could learn a thing or two from him, maybe.
Yeah, Kratos could learn a thing or two. But Solomon Kane is compassionate to people. Is compassionate to people. He's very morally righteous. He has a lot of faith. And like, Solomon Kane is the indirectest inspiration for the stereotype of this supernatural bounty hunter, that roams the land, that roams the land fighting evil. Because like, Solomon Kane, the first story of Solomon Kane is barely anything supernatural happens, instead of something a bit of magic, necromancy by a shaman in Africa, but
maybe some voodoo magic in there too.
Yeah, some voodoo magic, some voodoo shit. But in other stories, he does encounter supernatural things, and he's kind of like, I must fight these abominations of Satan, because they're abomination against the Lord. But funnily enough, like, he also calls himself every time he confronts evil, either human or supernatural, he considers himself as an empty vessel in which God can pour his judgment onto.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the hardest things I ever read. Like,
it's I am like Conan, empty vessel. I'm sorry. It's like Solomon gave up his whatever free will he believes he has, and thinking that I will give everything to God for me to be his vengeance.
Yeah, basically. And and Solomon is not the stereotype of the religious fanatic that's this self-righteous prick that, you sneeze at church and he's not like, oh, heresy, burn it on a pyre. He has all the evil he confronts is very real and, very very objective, from slavers to bandits to sorcerers to monsters. The sad thing about about Solomon Kane is that there aren't that many short stories about him. There's only one volume of short stories on him, while Conan has like 3 of them, you know? There were a lot of short stories that tragically Robert E. Howard left unfinished, that he wanted to write more about Solomon and he was unable to do so due to his his tragic passing.
Maybe it's a good time for us to mention that, right? Because
yeah
I think it's good too if we mention this part, because we talked about Robert E. Howard, like how he lived, the stories he wrote, and the influence he made compared to all the giants in like his time. But the thing too, which I think made me relate to Robert E. Howard the most, is that he was taking care of his sick mom, and when his mom eventually died, he took his own life because the grief was so bad for him. And it's like, that is so relatable, because like that's something that you can never expect to experience or ever want to experience, losing your mom. So it's like, it's really unfortunate that he took his own life because of that grief. But it's like, to this day, I just, whenever I get the chance, I do try to mention him in the Chapel of Divine Mercy, because it's like, man, I wish God, I pray for God to have mercy on you, man, because it's really unfortunate. But what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, it's a very tragic. From what I understand, Robert's parents didn't have the best of relationships, so he kind of grew up in a kind of a broken home in a way. The family had family problems, and his father, Isaac Howard, lost a lot of money getting into get rich quick schemes, that sort of thing. His mother kind of was one of the most influential people in her life, probably the most. And his mother, what she did was she sheltered him a lot from his parent, his father, for good or bad. That can have untoward effects towards a developing child. But she also was the main reason her son had all these intellectual pursuits, all this interest in literature, and she spent a lot of time sick, right? And she was kind of overprotective of him, and she kind of like, she was the inspiration for her son in the sense of his love for literature and poetry. And she was the one that supported him the most in his whole thing about being a writer. But she was kind of also apparently overprotective of him, and which kind of led to him not being able to carry on when she died and he took his own life. Like, he died on June 11th, 1936 from a gunshot wound. He was 30 years old. Like, I just turned 30 years old, man. He was barely starting to live. It's kind of like crazy. Like, most of the things he wrote them in his late teens and his 20s, right? Like,
man, I'm almost 30. Like, I'm 28. Yeah. It's like 30 years old. But man, I just want to say, she probably did shelter him a lot. I don't know exactly his entire story with her, but it's like, I think one of the things he did great was protecting him from his father, if his father was like a broken man, because like, you don't want a child raised to be as broken as him.
Yeah. I mean, I get what. I don't know how bad the relationship got, but like, if he,
it's just, man, it's like, Robert, I wish things were different for you, but unfortunately it didn't went that way. But I am going to pray for you, man.
Will too. Like, in this channel, we are very unapologetic about being Catholics. So like, even though like I understand that Robert E. Howard was culturally Christian, but he was kind of like more agnostic. He wasn't he was agnostic. Although from what I understand, like, he kind of did appreciate the impact of Christianity in the world, from what I understand. But he wasn't the full blown nihilistic atheist that H.P. Lovecraft allegedly was, which I say allegedly because, it's kind of like difficult for me. Remember that eulogy that I read that was written by Lovecraft to Howard,
Mhm.
that I read a while back?
It's just, to me, it doesn't exactly matter anymore how they live their life. It's just that you
Yeah,
should
pray for their souls, man. Yeah.
that's why there's such an encouragement from the church to pray for souls of those who have died, Christian or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So it's like God is merciful and just. Let's see, let's hopefully one day we can see the people we admire in the next life.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. That's a sad end to a great author. Like, the idea that, he could have given us even more, or even more stories, more than the ones that the great catalog that he left behind, is like a sad thing to imagine. Also, I think, sadly, I think that in a way, the tragedy of his story, in a way, kind of, I think that kind of like, gave some impulse to his fame in a way. Like, sadly, I think that the quality of his writing speaks for itself, right? But I do believe that the way he left this world and the tragic way it was, kind of like pushed his fame out the door in a way, right? So like, it's sad that your legacy is kind of like past that sort of, that sort of ending. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk to Mr. Howard again one day. But yeah, pray for his soul. The he left a note, actually, 2 lines from a poem on his, his self deletion, after he, it said, "All fled, all done, still left me on the pyre. The feast is over and the lamps expire."
Wow,
It's
man.
apparently taken from a poem, "The House of Caesar" by Viola Garvin.
Man, I just want to say this too, though. There might be some, stereotypes on, Pulp Fiction writing. And of course, it's like some of his writing might be like eye raisers here and there. But I think Robert E. Howard left a strong foundation when it comes to, like, say, sword and sorcery literature, that there's a reason why his stories are remembered when others are just forgotten about. Because Howard and Lovecraft, despite difficulties these people might be in life, or whatever difficulties they would have, not like as if no one else has difficulties, but they left a strong foundation for their works to stand upon, I would say.
Yeah.
And
like in a way, in the pagan worldview, the ideal of achieving immortality is essentially doing something great so you can transcend death by the way of people never forgetting you.
Exactly,
right?
Man.
So, like, in a way, Robert achieved just that. Hopefully, he'll achieve immortality the other, more perfect way.
Exactly, man. And it's like, and even too, like how we say there's Lovecraftian horror, there's also sword and sorcery literature, and of course that will inspire works like Gotrek and Felix. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's like we emphasize, let's pray for Howard's soul, and hopefully we can talk about his stories with him in the next life.
Yeah, hopefully. That sounds great to me. I totally, you have my support on that, believe me.
And anyways, I think this concludes our episode. Is there anything you want to say before we call an end?
No, it was very enjoyable to do this one. It was one that was a long time coming, and I'm glad that we were finally able to talk about this one. And I'm glad that you have found Howard to be also, you have find it in, you have found a place in your heart for Howard, for Robert E. Howard, alongside his buddy, HP,
Exactly, man. These two, I would say those two are like the Colossus when it comes to like pulp fiction weird tales. So it's great that I got to experience Howard as I did with Lovecraft. And thank you all for listening. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and activating the bell so you never miss an episode. And with that, we'll see you guys next time with a brand new video.